Joining us today. Jam-packed show as always. Today I have new stuff for the bookcase of accountability, and I've got some other things that we'll get into today. As my notes are over here, you can't actually see them as you're listening, but I put my notes where they're in a spot they're not supposed to be. All right, there you go. I'm a beacon of silliness today. Just warning you up front. All right, so what have we got to go over today? Well, several different things, including we're going to look at, there's an article that came out about the G5 teams that could knock off some SEC teams this season. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about, someone mentioned this yesterday about the transfer portal. And I looked up the biggest names that are still out there in the transfer portal. We'll get into that. Also, Pro Football Focus put out their way too early top 25. We'll get into that. And all kinds of other little things here today on the rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. We'll also talk about something I want to get into in a little bit, but I don't want to go too crazy with it. But there's a section of folks that when I meet new people and they ask me what I do and I tell them that this is what I do, we end up talking about, of course, college football because that's what's king around here. I know that. But we were talking about the NBA and how I still love the NBA. And people tell me about, hey, Rob, I just can't get into the NBA. I'm going to tell you why in a moment. All right. Why people are done with the NBA. And it's just going to end up with just hardcore guys like me that keep following it. So, yeah, we'll get into that this afternoon. But I got to start with the Pro Football Focus's way too early top 25. And by the way, we've talked about the bookcase of accountability. And that is, as I'm yawning today, that is something that we keep and then we look back at it come December. And we have bookcase of accountability day. And we look at how teams were projected to do. And we keep track of a lot of how certain organizations look at certain teams. Now, one thing that I've noticed about a lot of these organizations is that there is a love for teams that are in the Power Five. There are G5 teams that just aren't going to make someone's list. And I don't know how we fix that. I'm not saying that there should be more G5 teams in there over Power 5 teams, but I am saying that there are G5 teams that do make noise and they can cause some problems. So we'll get into that in a moment, but we'll start with this way too early top 25 from Pro Football Focus. Number one is Alabama. And, we can talk about all the great things that are Alabama, but to think that Alabama is not going to be in the top 5 would be silly. Number 2 is the Ohio State Buckeyes. Lots and lots of talent up there. Can't really argue with that. Number 3 is the Georgia Bulldogs, a team that has a ton of talent. Maybe they have some issues at figuring out what's going to happen at quarterback. I don't know. Still a ton of talent, and they're going to be really, really good again this year. Man, their tight end rotation is insane. If they can convince everybody to stay at all the tight ends they've got, they could start calling themselves tight end U, because I think they have all of those tight ends they've got could pretty much start everywhere. Number 4 on the list is the Clemson Tigers. What they said about Clemson was Clemson will go as far as its defense will take it. Really? Really? I mean, when you hear that, it's just exactly. Yeah, it's not. I mean, they're not really going out on a limb there. At number 5 on the list is the Michigan Wolverines. Now, I find that hard to believe with all the players that Michigan lost, but we shall see. 6 on the list is Texas A&M. We're not sure who their quarterback's going to be. It's kind of hard for me to think. And this goes with Clemson too. How can you be projected to be a top team in the country? We don't know who's taking the snaps under center. I mean, that's a very valid point, right? Also, at number 7, we've talked about the first matchup of the season with Florida welcoming in Utah. Utah is ranked 7th in this early set of rankings here. And yeah, I mean, I think Utah is going to use that Florida game as a jumping off point. They're going to hurt some folks' feelings down there in the swamp. I'm serious. I think Utah is going to be really, really good. Maybe the best in the Pac-12. Now, Southern Cal is at number 8. I think they're putting Southern Cal up there simply because there are a lot of people that are on the Lincoln Riley train. And they think Lincoln Riley is going to come in there with his big quarterback transfer that he's got, and he's going to be able to throw the ball up and down the field on those Pac-12 offenses, and they're going to be great. I mean, you have to show me first. Got to show me. Number 9 is Oklahoma. I don't know if Oklahoma is going to be ranked that. I think they're going to be a team that may struggle at the beginning of the season a little bit, and then they're going to figure it out late in the season, and then we're going to be talking about them for the following season. But they've got them at number 9. Number 10 in this first set of rankings is Wake Forest. Think about that for a second. Wake Forest. I don't know if I'm buying into all of that, but Wake Forest, when you think about it, they've got, they don't have questions at quarterback. We know that. So that's a good thing. One of the other teams that's in the top 15, though, that they really like is South Carolina. Yes, the Gamecocks from right here in Columbia. They have the Gamecocks at 15. I don't know how far fetched that is, but if Shane Beamer has a team that finishes 15th in the country after his first season, or after the first season where they went, won 6-7 games, something like that, that would be, I mean, if they finish 15th, he's got to be getting Coach of the Year honors in the SEC. So, yeah, number 15 in the country, according to Pro Football Focus, with their way too early top 25, is the South Carolina Gamecocks. 803-978-1832. Are they losing their mind over at Pro Football Focus? Give us a call, and we will talk about that. 803-978-1832. Let's look at the rest of the top 25 here. They've got, let's see here. The rest of my stuff didn't print, so that's why I had to go just off memory there. Number 11 on the list is Notre Dame, followed by Arkansas at 12. The Pitt Panthers check in at 13. At 14, you have the Texas Longhorns, which until they actually get themselves right, it's hard for me to buy into them. South Carolina's at 15. At 16 is the Miami Hurricanes. 17 is NC State. 18 is the Kentucky Wildcats. Okay. 19 is BYU. 20 is Baylor. 21 is Wisconsin. 22 is Tennessee. let's see here. 23 is the Houston Cougars. 24 is Ole Miss. And 25 is the Oregon Ducks. Elijah says, I'm going to be honest. I think they have Tennessee at 22nd. How do they have South Carolina above them when Tennessee literally beat them by 25 last year? I can tell you why. Because South Carolina brought in a quarterback. They're not going to have their defensive linemen trying to make passes into the end zone. They're not going to have to get that creative. They can give plays to Spencer Rattler, and he can go out there and make plays. That's why. And the game is not going to be at Tennessee. The game is going to be in Columbia. That's why. I'm just saying that's probably what they're looking at there. South Carolina, according to 247 Sports, has the number 6 recruiting class as far as the transfer portal goes. So they've been putting guys into the mix there that can make plays for South Carolina. That's why they have them over Tennessee. Now, does that mean that Tennessee can't beat South Carolina? No. No, it doesn't. But if you think that South Carolina team that went to Tennessee and lost by 25 is the same team that you're going to play this season, you're out of your mind. No offense there, Elijah. Completely different team. I would hope that the Tennessee team may be different too. Maybe I'm reaching. I don't know. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. These rankings do have the Houston Cougars as your G5 team there. And I guess BYU's in the mix too. But not a lot of love for Central Florida. Not a lot of love for Cincinnati. I don't remember Cincinnati being in the mix either. Anyway, we'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. And another thing, when you look at this South Carolina team, they had 5 players transfer out of the program since spring practice ended. Now, you can look at that from 2 perspectives. One, all right, they went out there and spring practice didn't go the way they wanted. They can find a better opportunity somewhere else. Or you could go at it from this perspective. The coaches probably told them, let's use reserve defensive lineman Will Rogers, who announced this morning that, hey, I'm heading somewhere else. He played in 1 game in 3 years with the program. 1 game in 3 years with the program. I'm sure there were people that were telling him, hey, it's probably not looking good for you because we're bringing guys in. Remember that number 6 recruiting class as far as the transfer portal goes? Yeah, there's that. 803-978-1832. Out to the phones we go. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, talking about the South Carolina players that have hit the portal so far.
Right.
I assume you're probably going to see another 2 or 3 more.
Right, but none of the players that are hitting the portal are players that Shane Beamer is depending upon. It's not like they're losing anybody that they're losing depth. I'll give you that. But as far as, hey, we're depending on this guy to help make us better this year, I don't think so.
Yeah, but Eric Shaw was a pretty highly ranked recruit when he came in. And a lot of people thought that Will Muschamp should have put him on the defensive side of the ball. He didn't. He put him at tight end. And Shane Beamer comes and moves him from tight end to wide receiver. It just, I don't know. There's something going on right there.
I'm looking at, here's some of the guys that have left. Kevion Mullins, a tight end, went to Jackson State. Jason Brown, who I don't think played very, very well at South Carolina, ended up at Virginia Tech. Vincent Murphy, an offensive lineman, went to Western Kentucky. Dominic Hill went to Temple. Jamar Brown went to Coastal Carolina. What do all those schools have in common? They're not Power 5 schools. So
no.
These guys took a step down so they can get a chance to play.
But some of the recruits he brought in were not from Power 5 schools either. And he's looking at them to be superstars. I mean, I told you that I went to the spring game, and it just didn't have a good feel about it. Shane Beamer seemed happy,
yeah,
but the players seemed like they could either take it or leave it.
Right.
There was just something that it just felt so odd that the players were out there that seemed like they could care less. I don't, like I said, I don't know if it was at night and they had to clear the field, but even the people weren't letting the people go onto the football field either. It's just, it had a funny ring to it.
Well, I tell you what, we'll put that up on the bookcase of accountability, and maybe that'll come true this season. I'm just saying, on paper, a lot of these guys ended up going down a level, and maybe they were told, there's probably not room for you here.
Yeah, but two guys that he brought up last year, the quarterback and his teammate, the wide receiver,
EJ Jenkins,
he taught them up like they were going to be, say, especially Jenkins, like he was going to be a superstar. And already he's gone.
Well, respectfully, and I'm not defending Shane Beamer here, but he's going to tell you all of his players are the best. He is captain positive. I mean, he really, really is. So, I mean, I've heard him talk about all kinds of guys, but Doty and everybody else. So,
yeah, but I mean, the reason why he's having to bring these guys up is because he had guys leave.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to be said about that. I mean, and especially if these guys knew what you say, the coaches have been telling them, they've had to have seen what they've been doing in practice and who's been getting the most reps. Why would they have waited to after the spring game? Why would they just have bolted before then?
That's a good question. I mean, these are all things that we'll never really know, by the way.
Yeah. And he's got two more guys that didn't participate in the spring game, but he won't say what's going on with them.
Well, we shall see. I mean,
yeah,
you never know. Hey, man, I appreciate you calling, though. What else you got? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose 10 guys, I don't care who you are, that's depth. 10 scholarship guys is a lot.
That's true.
Ask Clemson. What happened to them last year when they started losing players? It matters.
It does, but I think it's happening everywhere, not just in South Carolina. I mean, the transfer portal is hot. So
Georgia got a player to go back. Mims.
Yeah.
He decided that Florida State wasn't for him. So,
well, who knows, man? I mean, we don't know with any of these guys until they actually get out there. So,
and yesterday was tax day, so it was time for Texas A&M's guys to start paying up.
Fair enough, man. Hey, I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. All right. I don't know. I mean, we're going to put that on the bookcase of accountability with our good friend there, Scott, who says that he doesn't have a good vibe for the South Carolina program this year, judged on the spring game, which I'm not buying into the spring game. I'm not, but we'll put it up there. I hold in my hand the top players in the transfer portal. We'll go over that when we come back. Someone asked about some of these players that may be trying to find themselves a new spot. I've got a list for you here on the rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, someone said the Tennessee investigation is over. We haven't gotten a release from the NCAA. Maybe I'm missing something, but we haven't gotten a full, because trust me, I would have read that by now. Would have read that by now. And here's my thing with that too. Yes, Tennessee took they fired everybody, which is what they had to do. And they took scholarship reductions. But you know what? That's not enough. For the way that they basically just pissed on the rules, they should have a bowl ban for a year. I don't get any of that. I mean, just the idea of, they fired everybody and they took scholarship reductions. That's not enough. They stuffed McDonald's bags with money for recruits. And I know that other teams do it too, but you were caught red-handed, and you went out on a limb and said, when your former coach, Pruitt, said, hey, you should give me my money. You went out and said that you did these things so you didn't have to pay him. Your own athletic director said that. You should be banned from bowl games for a year. I don't understand. Now, I know people are going to say, but Rob, everything is with NIL. This is before NIL. If I murder somebody tomorrow and then they say murdering's cool the next day, still murdered somebody. It's still against the law. Take your medicine, Tennessee. It's ridiculous. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. We were talking about the Tennessee situation, and I haven't seen anything about the Tennessee stuff is over yet. So will we get a ruling on that? Let me help you with this. Probably not. And by the way, if you want to get out of this, Tennessee, let me give you the plan. Let me give you the plan to get out of it. Here's what you do. When the NCAA comes to tell you, oh, we're going to suspend you from bowl games for a season, which is what should happen to you because you blatantly cheated, admitted that you cheated, and refused to pay your former coach, put that out there, saying that he was the one that cheated, tagged everything on him, which, hey, he was the head of the program. Trust me, there were more people that were involved, I'm sure. But when they come to you, here's what you say. Touch me and I'll sue. Yep. That's how you get out of it. North Carolina pretty much did the same thing. They gave away degrees out of a drive-through window and did it for years. What'd they say to the NCAA when the NCAA came sniffing? Touch me and I'll sue. And the NCAA, being the useless organization that they are, toothless, smooth surface, you probably know what I mean by that, organization that they are, they won't do anything to you. That's how you get out of it. You lawyer up. You say, you know what? I'm going to spend, $4 million on lawyers, and I'm going to get the best lawyers that money can buy, and I'm going to sue the NCAA if they say one more negative thing about us. That investigation will go to hell quick. And you know what they'll say? Oh, we're going to cite you for having too much ice cream on the cookies. Thank you for that, and move on. That's how you get out of it. And I'm not, first of all, it looks like I'm just hanging Tennessee on a yard iron here, and I'm not. There are other organizations that have done it too, other schools that have done it too. The point is that we don't really have what we're supposed to have with the NCAA. They're supposed to be where you actually have laws and rules and everything else, and no one cares. No one cares. By the way, on that, and we haven't really talked about this with Tennessee. Did all that cheating, you didn't really win much. Tell me about all these great wins you got when you were stuffing McDonald's bags full of money. When was your last win over Alabama? I mean, at least cheat better. If you're going to cheat, actually win some games. Nah, y'all were just paying for a big tease is what you were paying for. That's basically what it boils down to. If the Tennessee athletic director is listening to this show and she can on the iHeartRadio app, that's all you got to do. Tell them very simple. Touch me and I'll sue. I would lawyer up, spend the money on that because it's going to end up, do a risk reward type thing there. Yeah, we're going to spend $4 million on lawyers, but it'll save us because we're going to make $8 million on the football end. Dakota says you can't never have a fair ruling from the NCAA because they're so slow at what they do and they're useless because of that. You're exactly right. That may be the comment of the day. Why is it that we have to wait so long for these investigations to come out? The athletic director admitted that Jeremy Pruitt did this stuff, and they were fully responsible for it. If you're fully responsible, you should take whatever it is they give you. But see, the thing is, Tennessee didn't want to pay Pruitt. You know why they didn't want to pay Pruitt? Because Pruitt was stupid and he got caught. And that's just reality. He was too stupid and he got caught. And now they don't want to give him idiot money to walk away. Because in their mentality, this guy is too stupid for us to send him a check. That's basically what it boils down to. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Daddy O says, what falls first, the NCAA or the U.S. dollar? Well, the NCAA is worthless now. I mean, I could still take $1 and go get a pack of bubble gum in theory. 803-978-1832. Jay says the Tennessee president blames the invention of Windows 98 being the downfall of their program. I don't know about all that. And I don't want to just harp just on Tennessee because there are other spots that do the same thing that they did. No one is better than the other. But the problem here is the NCAA. And you know what? We wouldn't have where everybody was doing said things if the NCAA came out and hammered people. How dare you take away from these athletes their ability to be amateurs? How dare you take away the term student athlete and just make them paid players, and they basically camp out until they reach that 3-year window and then go play in the NFL? The NCAA had a satchel. They would fix that. And you make an example out of North Carolina. You make an example out of Tennessee. Blue blood programs on basketball for North Carolina and for Tennessee, they were the cream of the crop of the SEC in the 90s. Hit them hard. Hit them so hard that they tell their fellow conference members about it. We were fined so much we can't afford paper in the office. And once that gets out, maybe some of this stuff will go away. But with NIL, probably not. Probably not. But the idea that, everything is cool now with the NIL. No, it's not. It's not cool at all. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown, here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. More when we come back. Look, I thought Pruitt was going to be really good, so I can't really say anything. I mean, I thought Pruitt was going to be really good. That looks really crummy on the bookcase of accountability over there. Oof. Good point, Dakota. Who is this new guy, Zachary? Welcome to the show. No one's ripped on Alabama. Why are you typing in all caps? And Georgia beat your ass last year. You should calm down just a little bit. But welcome to the show. Make sure if you call, you don't yell, okay? Alabama fans, bless your heart. Nobody here said Georgia's a dynasty. Did anybody in the chat room say Georgia was a dynasty? I mean, did Peg and Megan say that? No one said Georgia's a dynasty of anything. Jesus, there's no hope for you, Peg and Megan. No hope for you at all. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are what? Today is April the 19th. So there are 30 days in April. So you have 11 days plus 1. You have 12 days left. What is it that you have 12 days left for? Well, let's just say that your program right now, you need, a good edge rusher. Who doesn't need that, right? Yeah, well, you have until then to get the services of O'Shawn Mathis, who is a 4-star recruit, played at TCU, and he's looking to go somewhere else. Brew McCoy is a wide receiver that's transferring from Southern Cal. Folks are thinking he's going to go to Tennessee. He's a 4-star recruit. How about some defensive backs? Keydron Smith from Ole Miss, a 4-star recruit, is going to go somewhere. Tyler Harrell, a wide receiver from Louisville who made some plays last year. Wouldn't that be helpful to someone's offense? Yeah, he's going somewhere else. Let's look at some of these other folks that are on the list here. One thing that I have noticed is that you get some edge rushers, you may get some defensive backs, you get some wide receivers. But as of right now, the one big area that there is pretty much no help is on the offensive line. You're pretty much stuck right now as far as the offensive line goes. Here are some other players that are out there. Let's see here. And Cam Johnson, a wide receiver that played at Vanderbilt. They're predicting he's going to go to Ole Miss. He's a borderline 4-star recruit. And he's played against an SEC schedule. So he knows that I think Vanderbilt don't play Alabama every year, but they do play a Power 5 schedule somewhat. So he might be good. How about another defensive back, Eric Reed from Auburn? Eligible immediately. Could really help your defense this season. I'm giving you these because when you watched your spring game the other day, and I'm not saying that you should take your spring game and say, you know what, things are silly right now. But one area that is out there, especially with the NIL and transfer portal and all that, where coaches can make their way a little bit, it has to be with this transfer portal. I'm looking at some of these guys. Tyler Harrell can play anywhere. Anywhere. The young man Mathis at TCU, he could play anywhere. Some of these guys came out of high school pretty good. KJ Wallace at Notre Dame, I remember his recruitment. Big-time defensive back. He's looking for somewhere to play. So with that, it's almost like a shopping list. And there are plenty of players that can definitely fill some holes. Dakota says, if your spring game did not feel right, hit that portal, hit it now, get it to feeling right. Yes. At this point, you have to hit it and hit it hard. Because you also have the aspect of there may be players leaving that you were depending upon. And some of these guys are legit Power 5 players that can really, really help you. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. If you want to talk a little bit about the transfer portal, we can get into that. We can get into the Gamecocks being a top 15 team, according to Pro Football Focus. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I also have, let's see here. Right, let me get the rest of it up here. Where did I do with it? As my stuff is all over the place today. This is the price you pay with me, by the way. It really is ADD on the radio. I am not ashamed of the fact that I am a dimwit at times. I can't keep my head together at all. It's pretty sad. I do have, apparently B Bean checked in late. He says top 15. Did hell freeze over? No, sir. That's what Pro Football Focus wrote. That's why we're going to put it on the bookcase of accountability. So there you go with that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. B Bean says Rob is not a dim. I just called myself a dimwit. If I call myself that, then, there are times I can't string 4 words together. I don't know. It happens. All right, so I found this article on 6 group of 5 teams that could embarrass the SEC in non-conference play in 2022. Memphis. Who is Memphis playing? Mississippi State. Why it could happen? Well, it already happened twice in the past 3 seasons. Memphis beat both teams from the Magnolia State in thrilling fashion. I don't know if you want to tangle with the folks from Memphis, but we shall see. I think the Pirates going to have them ready for that matchup. We shall see. Rick says Rob doesn't have a real job. You're right. What's your point? I get paid to do this. Yeah. Justin says, Rob, could Clemson make it back to the playoffs if they can figure out the inadequacies at quarterback and on the offensive line? Their defense is good enough to take them to the playoffs. Yes. But with the current situation at quarterback for Clemson and the offensive line, I would say those are questions that they need to have answered quickly. Another opponent from a Power 5, or excuse me, a G5 that could get over on an SEC team is Arkansas with Cincinnati. Can Cincinnati get the job done with Arkansas this season? Why not? Cincinnati's played some pretty good football here lately. I know they're missing some guys. We shall see. Baca Drinker Online says, did you see where an NIL contract could cause a player to have to stay at a particular university or risk being sued for breach of contract? Yes, I did see that. That's definitely out there. And I wonder why that didn't happen with Quinn Ewers at Ohio State, where he got over $100,000 to go up there and not take a snap. It's a horrible thing to happen to whoever had him up there pushing whatever it was they were trying to get him to push. But yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Papa B says, Clemson revenge on NC State. Book it. Take the Clemson to cover. You might be right about that. The game's at Death Valley, by the way. Zachary says, Rob, Bama and Saban is on his revenge tour this year with Texas A&M and Georgia. He won't lose. Well, way to go out on a limb there. Nick Saban not losing. It's not like he does it a whole lot. It's not like he's not ranked as the number 1 team in everything we put on the bookcase of accountability. Just saying. You're not really going out far on a limb there, Zachary. But as always, I appreciate you joining the show. All right, 803-978-1832. We'll look at some more of these G5 teams that could upset an SEC team this season when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Who is it? Somebody said that he'll lose to 2 former assistants. I don't know about all that. I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, like I've been doing this new workout thing, and like in the middle of the day, like right about now, I'm just tired for some reason. I don't know why. Starting to bug me a little bit. Are you driving one of those big rigs and texting at the same time? That's crazy. You might be right, Jason. I don't know, man. I've been working out hard, and it's like, oh, I'm all, and like after I'm done, I feel great, and then I get here and I do the other stuff that I do for iHeartRadio, and all of a sudden, I um I end up like just done. Does Saban play? Oh, okay. You're talking about Georgia and Texas A&M. I don't know why people love Texas A&M so much. I'm not buying into them. They may end up being the greatest thing ever. I don't know. Jimmy says I should try Geritol for this poor iron blood. Okay. Jason says, yeah, especially after leg day. You're right. But that's Papa B. I'm not really doing much sugar, man. Not doing much sugar at all. So I don't know. Jesus, you disappoint me, Pagan Megan. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today as we roll through some of the G5 teams that could get a win over an SEC team. Next up on the list is Hawaii. They play Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's going on the road to Hawaii to play. Maybe that could be something that would hinder them. I don't know. You're basically traveling halfway across the earth. Maybe that could hinder the Commodores a little bit. I don't know. Northern Illinois, this is another thing too. Vanderbilt's traveling to Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois gets Vanderbilt and Kentucky this year. I don't think that Northern Illinois, they are coming off a MAC championship season. They're ranked number 8 in the FBS in percentage of returning productions. But I would like to think that, I don't know, a Power 5 team could go in there and get a win. Maybe I'm not feeling, maybe it's not the same thing with Vanderbilt. I don't know. But they've got Northern Illinois with Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Appalachian State. Ooh, who does Appalachian State play? Texas A&M. Yes. Appalachian State's done it before. Not saying. I'm not saying it's completely far-fetched. Their defense has a lot of talent, including the Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year, DeMarco Jackson, all-conference defensive back Sean Jolly. I tell you what, the people like our buddy Peg and Megan over there who are like, oh, Texas A&M is going to win the SEC this year. If App State beats Texas A&M, his name will be Pagan Casper. He will be a ghost. He will not show up on this show. If you lose to Appalachian State, Appalachian State at home, they should do what they did to Bert Bulimia at Arkansas. Seriously. All right, and then the final team on this list is Georgia State. Who do they play? South Carolina. Of course, 2019, they got Tennessee. They were like, what, a 30-point favorite in that, or 30-point dog in that game? Sean Elliott's coming off an 8-win season that saw him nearly upset Auburn, if not for some late TJ Finley heroics. Georgia State also ranks number 25 in FBS in percentage of returning production. It is the season debut there for Spencer Rattler. We shall see how that works out. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown, if you want to talk about that. On Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I know we've talked about a ton of football stuff today, but I want to drop this one NBA story on you before we leave. Demarcus Cousins. Remember him, the big bully guy from Kentucky? I remember him being in South Carolina, almost starting to fight with people as they left when a South Carolina team that wasn't nearly as talented as that Kentucky team got the win over them. But he tweeted out, "What did SAC do for me besides say my name on draft night? I did more for them than they did for me." He said, that's just being honest, just being 100% honest. I had 2 owners, 3 GMs, 7 coaches in 7 years. I was there 7 years. I had 3 GMs, 2 owners, and 7 coaches. Not much more needs to be said. Well, former coach George Karl tweeted back at him and said, I don't know. They paid you $50 million and gave you the opportunity to play basketball for a living? Yes. Very good. Here's the thing. You want to hate Demarcus Cousins because he is a bully. He wants to knock people around to get rebounds. And he plays with a hard edge. But you know what? That's something in society we kind of need right now. Oh, wow. Wait, what? Yeah, we kind of need that in society. You know why? Because we got a lot of folks that are out there that are playing basketball or football or whatever. And they're just not the manliest of men. And I'm not saying that this is a gladiator sport anymore. I'm just saying that you can question a lot of these guys' heart. And I was talking at the beginning of the show about why it's hard to watch the NBA. And I guess it's just being a kid, and I grew up watching Michael Jordan and all those guys and Larry Bird. And I love the Dream Team and all that. So I'm going to watch the NBA. It's just embedded into me, okay? I know some people aren't going to get into it. I know that. But the reality is this. The biggest problem with the NBA right now is that you've got a bunch of guys that don't have the edge that Demarcus Cousins has. Last night in his game with he's playing with Denver now, and Golden State was handing them their hat basically, and he was wanting to fight guys on the bench. Demarcus Cousins is a talented guy. He's had to deal with the injuries and everything else. But the reality is this. The guy is a beast. What makes him a beast is his attitude. He has no problem telling you, I'll knock your teeth out to get a rebound. Need a little bit more of that. Maybe tone it down just a little bit. Joel Embiid told Nick Nurse from the Toronto Raptors, the head coach there, to stop complaining about refs, but he was using another word there. As it seems like Nick Nurse has been running his mouth. He says he's a great coach, Embiid told reporters. Obviously, he's been able to accomplish a lot and always been a big fan. But I told him respectfully, I told him to stop blanking about calls. Look, Joel Embiid is going to be the NBA MVP. And Joel Embiid he can play pretty physical at the basket and everything else. But why are you apologizing to a head coach for another team? Why are you coming across to him like that? Oh, I have a ton of respect for him. I told him respectfully. Here's a thought. Hey, coach, stop complaining. If all that comes to you, you just say, I can't control the referees. We play with the same group of referees. Shut the hell up. Why do we have to be so respectful all the time in a sport where, I mean, it's a sporting event and you're paid millions of dollars to do it? I don't understand. Is Demarcus Cousins a bully? Yes, he is. Do we need more of that? Yes, we do. In the NBA, we absolutely do. Karl Anthony Towns plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's 6'11", and I'm telling you right now, I could probably box him out for a rebound. He is scared to get in the paint. He wants to shoot threes like he's a guard. He really does. Anyway, that's why people are turned off to the NBA right now, because you don't really have a lot of guys that have the killer instinct that Demarcus Cousins has, that he wants to fight his own team when they're getting hammered. Michael Jordan had it too. You just didn't see a lot of it. Michael Jordan's the reason I watch the NBA. Anyway, Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk will be up next. He's the czar of Clemson Sports. Follow him on Twitter at Clemson Sports. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. We'll see you tomorrow. One other thing. Who was it? Jay asked why I read B-Bean's comments if he's blocked half the room. I didn't know that. I live in the mentality of this, like what we were just talking about. If you can't handle the fact that people are going to say things to you in the chat room and you can't defend yourself, I mean, I don't know if you should be here or not. And it's nothing against you, B-Bean. But the reality, it comes back down to take care of yourself. I mean, I honestly didn't know that. So take yourself and think about this on before we do a show tomorrow. Has what anybody said in that chat room been worthy enough for you to say, you know what, I'm going to block them so that I don't have to see their opinion? You're living in an echo chamber, and that's not going to work. I mean, I can't make you unblock people, but it's really hard to get to pay it the way the show works, to pay attention to what's going on if you're not getting the full conversation. Rick Sanchez says, I can't defend myself. Of course you can't. Of course you can't. Nobody beats each other senseless in that chat room anyway. So just think about that. All right. Appreciate all of y'all as always. We'll see you later on. Safe space. The show is not for safe spaces, ladies and gentlemen.